Welcome back to the show, everybody. We got a great one for you this morning. Check this out. 11,800 Bitcoin moved from Coinbase. That's a lot of money. And we're going to talk about it too. And guess what? It's not the only one. XRP had 69.7 million moved from Ripple and exchanges. What is going on here? We'll take a look at it. China's CBDC versus a digital dollar. Well, guess what? Hester from the SEC's got something to say about it. We're going to look at it. We're going to get an update on the SEC versus Ripple hearing from yesterday. And we're going to take a look at some of Jeremy Hogan from Legal Briefs and his breakdown on what it was. And obviously, before we get out of here, we're going to have to take a look at the XRP price. Let's just roll that beautiful intro.
This is Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Subscribe for new content notifications. Now, here's Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. You can follow me on Twitter at BackupBradley above at the top of the screen, and everything that we're talking about here today. It's CryptoTaxAudit.com. Yeah, you can become a member for a very small fee, and they have a ton of lessons and tutorials, and they also have early notice. They look every week to see if there's any alerts on your case, or not case, but on your portfolio, your assets from the IRS. They have all kinds of things that you could take use of. And by the way, it costs a lot less than an actual audit by the IRS. And you get protection from Clinton Donnelly and everyone there at the CryptoTaxAudit.com. Make sure you check them out. The numbers here this morning are 156. Let's take a look at it here on the coin market cap. We're 2.2 trillion plus. There's plenty of money rolling into the space right now for the cryptocurrency space. More than $1 trillion is sitting at Bitcoin's doorstep. Bitcoin is back up this morning. We're at 57,000, almost 58,000, and we're up 6% on Bitcoin on the 24-hour, 16.37 on the 7-day. Ethereum running strong this morning at $2,874. It's up 4.5% on the 24-hour and more than 28% on the 7-day. Coming down to XRP at the number 4 spot, courtesy of the dereliction of duty and intimidation tactics by the SEC. We're at 156 this morning. We're off by 2.86% on the 24-hour, and we are up 45.95% on the 7-day. Now that is a heck of a number right there. I ain't kidding. 45.95%. And I mean, what a workhorse XRP is to be doing all of this underneath of the SEC Ripple lawsuit. And we're going to take a look at that in a breakdown in just a second with price as well before we get out of here. And we're going to hear from Jeremy Hogan himself from Legal Briefs, who's amazing. So let's go ahead and take a look at the range now, because we know that the analysts have told us, the chart experts who are amazing, they have been calling this space so well, and the price action and where we're going, and we will take a look at that before we get out of here. But ranging right now between $1.53 and $1.62. This makes me feel better. If you remember, it had been cited that 142, 146 were important resistance now support levels, and we're well above those areas. So this makes me feel good about where we may or may not be going with price, and we're going to look at that in a minute here. But let's go through some news right now, and this is from Michael Val 5 Links, who's an absolute Hall of Famer here. We'll see if the tweet wants to load for me. And I know that it would, but here we go. Okay, so here's what could trigger a widespread ban on Bitcoin, according to macro investor Jim Rogers. Now, I've talked about Jim Rogers on this show just the other day and a couple times before, and he just points out here that, Rogers argues that if Bitcoin's use case as a currency solidifies, then there's a real danger of it usurping fiat currency rather than cede power. Governments will seek to outlaw the flagship asset, predicts Rogers. Now, he says here also, if Bitcoin ever becomes viable currency, not a trading vehicle, but a viable currency, they can outlaw it. So this is the deal. You cannot stop the technology. And I've never, said that you can't. I've always said on this channel that you could regulate it out of existence. And this is exactly the point that he's making here. And all I'm suggesting is that the bigger the market cap for Bitcoin gets, the bigger the price of each Bitcoin gets, the higher in the tree, and it becomes more obvious and more glaring to the governments of the world and their currencies that it may in fact reach a point where it starts to truly challenge the actual fiat government currencies of the world. And remember, that was the original goal of Bitcoin, which it had actually failed to accomplish and fell back into what is a store of value. I think, personally myself, it should remain a store of value so it can avoid this kind of attack from regulators around the world. We'll keep an eye on it. But here's something that I found very interesting. Analytics data shows that $671 million worth of Bitcoin has been withdrawn to cold storage from Coinbase a short while ago. Not much more information than that when I go down into the article, but that is a lot. That is 11,827 Bitcoins in the major US-based crypto exchange Coinbase withdrew into a cold storage vault. That is one lucky individual right there. Shout out to whoever that is. They are bringing the heat. Now let's talk about what I think is really a huge part of why this crypto space has yet to be defined and really regulated to the degree it needs to be here in the US. And I believe it can be very quickly. Remember, one of the most popular quotes about government is, it moves very slow until it moves very fast. And that is the way governments work. But if you look at here, the narrative has been for a while now, if the US government doesn't lead financial innovation, China will leapfrog it and control the world's emerging monetary infrastructure. I've never believed this. I've always believed that it has been the US's play to be the last one out of the gate, but when they do, it will make them the front of the pack. Believe it or not, I do believe that that is the case. And we take a look here, and we're going to hear from somebody in a second who thinks it as well. While key central bank figures in the West like Jerome Powell and Christine Lagarde appear to be procrastinating on the subject of central bank digital currencies, China continues to make significant progress. Now, this has been the narrative. Again, I don't believe that, and the reason I don't believe that is because we have, and I'm using an example, it may not be this coin, but we know the USD coin was put together with Brian Brooks and Jeremy Allaire, and we also understand that Brian Brooks expressed at the time of doing an interview with Jeremy Allaire that it was one of the most important projects that the two of them worked on in their career. And I believe that that leans in for me, knowing that Brian Brooks used to be the former head of the Office of Comptroller of Currency in the United States, that tells me that the USD coin, although it may not be chosen, they believe firmly that it could serve as a digital dollar for the United States and the Federal Reserve as a public and private relationship. And there, I believe, is where we could leapfrog to the front of the pack in just the announcement of such a thing. SEC Commissioner Hester Pierce stated the planned digital yuan will not eclipse the dollar. She cited growth of stable coins backed by the greenback. And this, I think, really leans into exactly what I just laid out to you. There are private companies like the USD coin that the government could start tomorrow and say, you know what? We like what you've done here. It's in compliance. Everything is where we need it. Let's go ahead and use this as a public-private relationship. And tomorrow morning, the digital dollar has been here. And it is already being put to use. It already has plenty of accessibility, and it would continue, obviously, to explode if they were to make such an announcement, right? So this, to me, is a very, very easy fix to get in front of the pack. And I'll tell you who else is not sleeping on the job. It's the Bank of England. And the Bank of England has been a long time, for many years, a paying customer to Ripple. The Bank of England has published a job advertisement for a senior expert on, wait for it, a central bank digital currencies to lead the bank's thinking on the feasibility, design, and implementation of a CBDC. These are the on and off ramps of the new digital world. The governments will not be excluded. That isn't happening. Now, here we look at this and we see Bitcoin's not the only one's got a bunch of coins flying around here. What the hell is going on here? In the past 10 hours, 69.7 million XRP has been transferred by Ripple and several major crypto exchanges. Well, don't you find this interesting? At a time when U.S. retail investors are largely handcuffed at how much and where we can get XRP from, there have been hundreds of millions of XRP flying around the world between Ripple and exchanges. Now, are we getting ready to relist XRP in a broad way? I don't know the answer. I'm asking the question. Are we getting ready to see a liquidity provider event from these exchanges for market-making services? And they really show the courts and the SEC what the use case of XRP is really about? Again, I don't know the answer, but I know one thing. This is a lot. Ripple unlocks $1 billion, and obviously we know how the escrow works here. But the truth is that there has been a lot of XRP moving around the world, and you can't say that retail investors have largely just been buying this up like crazy, because you got to discount the entire U.S. retail investor because we can't get it to the tune that we used to. Interesting stuff here. Now let's take a look here. This is crypto innovation on trial in the XRP lawsuit, says Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse, and he's absolutely right here. He's talking about the idea that the case between Ripple and the SEC really does take aim at the entire crypto space and the tech in general. That's going to be interesting to see how this shakes out, but I think the best thing to do is to go to what was the hearing yesterday about. We have here the one and only Jeremy Hogan. Shout out to you, my friend. And he's going to give you, and I'm going to grab just a couple of spots here from Jeremy out of this video, because obviously we know that yesterday's hearing was about the memorandum of understandings that the SEC had pursued from foreign market regulators as well as foreign Ripple customers. And there was a back and forth. And obviously early on, the judge came out, Judge Netburn, and she made it very clear that she had Ripple on their heels about the precedent of law that was used by the SEC, which Ripple had to explain was not actually proper. And what, you know what? I think this is why we're bringing Jeremy Hogan into this, because he can do a much better job of explaining it than I can. Here we go.
Issue that was being argued over today, whether the memorandum of understanding between the federal government, the SEC, and the foreign government is mandatory or voluntary. If it's mandatory, the SEC can't do it. If it's voluntary, the SEC can do it. And as always, I was paying very careful attention to what the judge was saying, and Judge Netburn's first statement to Ripple, she said, "My understanding is that although the foreign company must comply with the request by its government, the foreign government does not have to comply with the SEC's request." Now, that was not a good way to start for Ripple. But the reason why the issue is so fascinating to me is that it brings us to thinking about the reason for the rule. Is the rule meant to protect the third parties? Or is the rule meant to provide the litigating parties equal power? Well, the judge seems to think it's to provide equal power, and therefore I think she was leaning towards allowing the SEC to continue with the request because the handing over of the documents from the foreign governments to the SEC is voluntary. But the Ripple attorney knew this. His name was Attorney Gertzman, and so he argued that although there are no bases for not providing the documents, for the most part these requests in fact are not voluntary, especially when perhaps smaller countries are dealing with an economic giant like the US of A. And further, if the purpose is to place the parties on even ground, then even if only one of the countries had to produce the documents, then the practice should not be allowed, even if only one of them have to do it. And that was Ripple's argument, and I loved every minute of it listening in on that.
All right, now let's go right here to 612, where he breaks it down even further here. And I tell you, I'm truly grateful for John Deaton and XRP attorney CEO and Jeremy Hogan, all of these guys being in this space, and James Filan, and I believe it is, and everybody who's been providing information for us. I would not, and I know what I'm good at, and more importantly, I know what I'm not good at, and I would not be able to interpret this to the level that these guys are, and it's just very grateful for it. Here we go.
To the judge, here's how Mr. Tenrero for the SEC describes the ruling that is the case precedent. Quote, thus in SEC versus Badian, Magistrate Judge Pittman considered and rejected defendant's request that in an enforcement action, the federal rules require that the SEC be ordered to seize using requests for use in litigation. So then what Ripple had to do was they had to distinguish the Badian case from this case, and they tried. They said that in the Badian case, the defense attorney screwed up and told the judge that compliance by the foreign governments was voluntary, when in fact that is not true. And since the judge ruled based upon incorrect facts, Judge Netberg should not look to that case as having any persuasive authority on the Ripple case. So, at the end of the hearing, the judge did not rule right away. Why not? Because she is going to pull out the Badian file and take a look at it and see if Ripple is really distinguishing the case well or not. Heck, she might even call Judge Pittman. He's retired now, but she worked with him for many years. She might have a cell phone. She might say, hey, Henry, what do you think of this? Here's what the argument is. And here's Judge Pittman, by the way. I just like his picture because he kind of looks like the kindest guy you'd ever meet. Very cute. In any case, it started out rough for Ripple, but I think they got the judge kind of thinking about this voluntary issue and whether the opinion by Judge Pittman was correct or not. Now, if I was forced to, I would guess that Judge Netberg will probably allow the SEC request to continue, even though I truly feel that is the wrong decision because the requests are de facto demands, but maybe she'll surprise me. I don't know. Just remember, I'm never wrong, so Judge Netberg will deny the motion at some level, but she will also be wrong in doing so. And
I love when Jeremy Hogan says, I'm never wrong, and he has a quote that he uses, but when I am, it's always someone else's fault. But let's keep moving. This is really great. Okay, so it's at 7:59. Let's hear him break it down and wrap this thing. It's amazing. Here we go.
The SEC just did in this hearing. It's very subtle, but nothing gets by me. So remember, the SEC got caught sending out these requests by Ripple, and they are supposed to disclose what they are doing. So Ripple called them out on that. Now look at page 6 in the SEC's response letter filed with the court. Quote, defendants' arguments that they will be prejudiced by the requests are meritless. First, despite contrary accusations, the SEC informed defendants of its intent to use RFAs at the start of discovery. Close quote. The SEC says that it told Ripple it's doing this by letter a long time ago. Now that's absolute malarkey, excuse my language. So every attorney knows that RFA means request for admissions. Ask 100 lawyers what RFAs are, and 99 of them will say it means requests for admissions. An RFA is a request for admissions. And out of those 100 attorneys, only one of them, and that one probably works for the SEC and its name begins with a T, will say that RFA stands for requests for assistance, which he says really means an MOU request, like these letters that they're sending out. So it's kind of like telling the judge, yes, I wrote down SOS on the piece of paper, but it doesn't stand for like in need of assistance or anything. It means selling old socks because, Judge, on the weekend I sell old socks, SOS.
The look on his face is incredible. Very grateful. Thank you, Jeremy. No doubt about it. What an incredible breakdown. So that's where we are. And you know what? I think it's a great sign that we see the judge say, you know what, I'm going to take this under advisement and make a ruling later and not now because of that idea that the precedent was being used by the SEC is bad precedent to begin with. And if you caught that, Jeremy Hogan said that Netberg, I believe, worked with the judge who had the precedent cited in the Badian case. So that, to me, could be very interesting to see the way this goes because yesterday morning in that hearing, he is right. Ripple was rocked back on their heels a little bit trying to defend what was going on and make clear that the precedent was, in fact, not worth using. So we'll keep an eye on what happens there. Now let's move on to what we know about Price, Crypto Wizard. I mean, they are something. These guys have, this is Billy and Martin, they have a paid group of over 5,000 people in it. And you don't get to keep that many people in a group because you're not doing it right. They're obviously doing something right because guess what? It's important. Look down here. All right. From November, and this was all called from like November and December time frame when they talked about from mid-May, we should see a bull run in XRP, and they're still calling for it. May 21 called to members on December 19th of 2020. Now, if that ain't badass, I don't know what is right there because I couldn't have done it, and that's why I call them experts. because these people have been spot on when it comes to understanding the charts. And that means spot on for me. Means not only do they get the calls right, but when we see the price waver at times, they help us understand what is going on with the charts, because sometimes there may be fundamental news. Like, for instance, yesterday during and after the hearing, the price slipped from where we were based on that fundamental reaction. There was seen to be some sell-off responding to that Ripple being, put on their own defense there. So we saw that, but the reality is, if we go to where Dark Defender is on this, who is another amazing expert in this space, and you should be following them, I believe. If I were you, I would be following them. It says, "Hi there, all." It says, "Please take your coffees and come closer." Well, hold on, I'm getting it right now. Now, what you got? Yeah, XRP is traveling in line with our expectations. She is trying to break 160 and will break soon. Next stops are 184, 272, and all-time high. He says, "My expectations within a few days is expected targets will be eliminated one by one. Enjoy your day." Now, I'll tell you what. None of this is financial advice from Crypto Wizard or Dark Defender or myself or Jeremy Hogan or anyone else. But, having these people know that they share their insights is absolutely reassuring to me to kind of watch the charts. I've obviously been huge in the fundamental news side. And this, to me, at this moment when we see price moving up, really does help support the things that we understand fundamentally, and getting the technical side to combine with it is just absolutely priceless. So very grateful to all of them and all of you. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe, leave a comment below, and share with somebody you know. And don't forget, by the way, I want to show you this. Where is it here? I have it up here somewhere, but if you have it, and I don't know if I could pull it very quickly, but Unstoppable Domains has been unstoppable. They're releasing a brand new premium domain category this coming week. So head on a swivel. This is Crypto You Never Know. You can find some amazing, amazing premium domains on there. Make sure you check out the link in the description and all the other links. They are trusted, vetted links, and I'll catch all of you on the next one.